Hi everyone, good afternoon. Today, this session, we are going to discuss mainly the basic principles of biostatistics for an undergraduate, and I'll also a little bit focus for some of the questions for in future. You should be able to answer in post-graduation preparation also. So I'll just try to make it a combination of both for undergraduate students to answer some 2 mark and 5 mark questions in biostatistics, and also some basic questions which will be asked in PG, NEET PG also. Okay, so let us start with the first slide. We'll start with the basic definition of biostatistics. Okay, right? So, so how do you define biostatistics, right? So it is nothing but a science and art of collection, compilation, presentation. Say there are 4 or 5 words which constitute biostatistics definition. Okay, right? So maybe 5 words I say: collection, compilation, presentation, analysis, and interpretation. Right? These 5 words related to what? So interpret what? Interpretation of numerical data concerned with biological events. This is what is called as biostatistics. Okay, right? So it is a science of collection, compilation, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of a numerical data concerned with biological events is called as biostatistics. Okay, right? So biostatistics, by saying that it deals with biological events, it has differentiated itself from pure statistics, which does not deal with these events. So biostatistics deal with mainly the biological events related to human beings. Okay. So biological events, say for example, birth, death, disease occurring among human beings, incidence, prevalence, disability rate, all these things coming under biological events related to human beings. Okay, right? So, broadly, biostatistics is classified into maybe uh, it's classified into two important classifications. So, descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. So, descriptive statistics deals with the organization and summarization of data and describing in terms of just averages and degree of variance. Okay, right? So, you collect some data and you just make the data into some data presentations, and then you make the data into a mean, median, mode, percent. After that, statistics we call it as descriptive statistics. And inferential statistics, it goes one more step further. It attempts to generalize the findings obtained from studying a few people. That means when you are doing a study or some collect the data, you don't collect the data from the entire university, right? You collect some data from some population, some sample of population, and then you attempt to generalize the findings of that particular sample to the total population, right? So this is what we call it as inference. You take some inference, you interpret, you do some inference about the sample in relation to the general population. So that is what we call it as inferential statistics. It also determines whether the conclusion based on your observations on a particular sample are likely to be correct or false, which we call it as a null hypothesis, right? So I'm just sensitizing you with some of the words. So null hypothesis, especially your test of significance, testing of a hypothesis, all these things, and giving your interpretation and inference about your study data, all those things mainly part of inference statistics. Okay, right? So descriptive statistics, to make it very simple, descriptive statistics just summarizing the data of what you obtained, and inferential statistics you infer and interpret some of the findings of the sample to the general population. That is inference. Okay, right? So which of the following is not a source of secondary data? So before going into the basics of descriptive statistics and inferential statistics, let us talk about what are the types of data and how these types of data is classified based on some classifications. So all those things that we are going to discuss before we talk much about inferential statistics. Okay. So to start with, which of the following is not a source of secondary data? Medical records in the hospital, survey of people living in an area, World Health Report, Health Information of India, of which is not a source of secondary data. Raghu, can you answer this question, Raghu?
So, no.
No. So it is basically the data are classified into primary data and secondary data. So now I'll tell you the explanation of what is primary and secondary data, then Raghu will be able to answer the question. So primary data is nothing but data which is obtained directly from the individual is called as primary data. Secondary data, you obtain the data from already existing records. So now, can you tell me which is not a source of secondary data?
So, survey of people living in an area.
That's it, right? So medical records, World Health Report, Health Information of India, all these things are already existing records. So they are all secondary data. So survey of people living in an area, you generate a primary data. Okay, right? So answer is B. So you classify the types of data into two, primary data and secondary data, which I told you just now. Data that is obtained directly from an individual is called primary data, and the data which is obtained from outside source is called a secondary data. Similarly, we have one more group or type of data which is based on the measurement. So we classify the data into quantitative and qualitative. Can anyone tell me out of this thing? Can anyone tell me what is quantitative? What is the literal meaning of quantitative? Vignesh, can you try it out? What is the meaning of quantitative and qualitative?
Quantity is something which can be measured, sir.
Absolutely, Vignesh, that is well done. So quantity is nothing but which can be measured. So similarly, quantitative data means that the data which can be measured or counted is called as a quantity. So examples are given here. Age. Can you measure your age? Yes, it can be expressed in terms of numbers, right? So those numbers can be in terms of months, years, days. Everyone. Height can also be measured there. And blood pressure is a measurable data. And blood cholesterol level is a measurable data. Anemia in terms of hemoglobin measurement. All these things are what type of data? They are all quantitative data because the data becomes measurable. Similarly, this quantitative data is divided into two types, right? So discrete and continuous, right? So the data which can be measured at the same time, the data forms into a countable numbers, takes only the whole number values. Say for example, number of visits is 10 visits, 15 visits, 20 visits, number now, 1.5, 2.8, 13.9 varies. Okay, right? So that is called a discrete data. Okay, right? So the data which can take only the whole number values is called as discrete data. And similarly, the data which assume value from 0 to infinity means even it can have some decimals or all those things, right? So age can be measured in terms of years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds. The data becomes huge. So 0 learning numbers on our. This is what we call it as measurable data, but it is a continuous. Okay, right? So example for another continuous data is weight and height are also continuous. Okay, right? So quantitative data which can be measured and it is classified into two types. One is discrete and continuous. So discrete, it can take only whole number values. Continuous can assume range from 0 to 8. So what is qualitative? As Vignesh said, quantity means it is measurable. Similarly, qualitative means it is not measurable. So they do not have numerical values. Okay, so for example, color of the skin. See, color of the skin you can give some colors, but you can give some names or color names. You cannot measure it directly. That's why it becomes a qualitative. So color of the hair. Severity of the disease may be classified into mild, moderate, severe, and so on. So it cannot be measured. So religion, you can give some name. Gender, similarly, gender cannot be measured. It can be classified into male and female, right? So even transgender is also there. So we can have some non-measurable data. This non-measurable data comes under qualitative data. Examples are given now. Okay, right? So you will be able to answer all these questions when I put some MCQs in further slides. Okay. So the data is also classified into nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio also. So we have seen primary data and secondary data. Now we are moving on to next. We moved on to quantitative and qualitative. Under quantitative, we have seen discrete and continuous. And now there are four types of data again, which is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Right. So what is a nominal data? Nominal data, any data which carries only the qualitative or it is a categorical data. So nominal data, we call it as a naming. Okay, right? Male, female, gender, it can be classified to male and female. So it is a qualitative category from while a group wise and empirical. That is what we call it as nominal data. It's also a type of qualitative in nature. Okay, right? And similarly, ordinal. Ordinal. Say for example, a ranking in a classroom or a severity of the illness. Everything classified. First, second, the socioeconomic status classification is also one of the examples. Class 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, right? So data has meaningful order, but no information about the size of the interval. So if you are not able to measure the size of the interval, that data also becomes a qualitative. So nominal and ordinal both are qualitative data. For example, here it is given severity of illness is measured in terms of mild and moderate and severe and so on. So it cannot be directly measured. So like this, meaningful order is seen, but there is no size difference. So this is called as ordinal data. Next is interval and ratio. So what is an interval data? Interval data has got a meaningful order and also meaningful interval, which means the data becomes measurable. Okay, right? So the temperature inside a particular room or something and temperature outside. You can measure the temperature in both the places and also you can easily find out the difference also. ஆனால் ratio கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியாது. That is what we call as interval. But that happens அப்படின்னா that is called as ratio. So where data has meaningful order and also ratio இருந்தா that is called as the ratio. So interval and ratio both are quantitative data. So pulse rate 120 per minute அப்படின்னு நீங்க சொல்லுங்க. Pulse rate 120 per minute is twice as fast as the pulse rate of 60 per minute. So here the data becomes measurable and it is also having an order and also there is a ratio, right? So this is called as ratio. So we broadly classify the data into primary and secondary data, then followed with quantitative and qualitative data, then qualitative data again classified into quantitative classified into interval and ratio, qualitative classified into nominal and ordinal. Okay, now your MCQ session starts, my dear students. I will be calling students in. You can read the question and then try to answer the question. Kavya, the question goes to Kavya.
Sir,
Yes, Kavya, please read the question and tell me.
If the grading of diabetes is classified as mild, moderate, and severe, the scale of measurement is ordinal, sir.
Yes. How?
Option
how
B.
is ordinal?
Sir, ordinal, it's according to ordinal scale, the data is presented according to rank or order, sir. It's based on grading, sir.
Fantastic, Kavya. Fantastic, Kavya. I appreciate your answer. So let's go to the next question. Now the question goes to Vignesh.
Yes, sir. So a physician, after examining a group of patients for a certain disease, classifies the condition into normal, mild, moderate, and severe. Which one of the following is the scale of measurement that is being adopted for classification of the disease condition? Sir, it is again ordinal, sir.
It's ordinal only, right? The key is only this thing, right? So normal, mild, moderate, and severe. So if you classify the data like this, it becomes ordinal. Okay, right. Now the question goes to Raghu.
Yes, sir. An
Yes, sir.
investigator does the research on IV drug users and divides them into HIV positive and HIV negative group. What is the type of data? Nominal, sir.
Yes, absolutely. See, you are just classifying into two groups, positive, negative. Yes, no. Okay, right? Black, white, gender, male, female. So just naming the groups. Okay, right? So that is called as nominal. Good job, my dear students. Next question. Can you read the question? Is it readable? Because it is there in the top.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please read the question, Raghu.
Results of the test were given as very satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied. It represents again ordinal, sir.
Yes. Okay, right. Again, it is ordinal. Now, Kavya.
Which of the following variables is measured on nominal scale? Nominal is it's either true or false. It has only two possible alternative answers, sir.
Yes, ma. Okay, right. So it is
So
not
severity cannot come, sir. Severity cannot come.
Yes. Okay. Very good. Severity cannot come because severity comes under which type of data?
Ordinal scale, sir.
Ordinal. Fantastic. Okay.
Type of anemia is, also cannot come, sir.
Why?
Sir, there are different types of anemia, sir. So
yes, okay. Different types of anemia there, but not necessarily only two categories. Okay, right? You can also call them as iron deficiency anemia, megaloblastic anemia. There are so many number of types of anemia, right? So you can have more than two categories also in nominal scale, not necessarily only two scales. Okay, right? So hemoglobin and serum ferritin, they are measurable data, so they cannot come under nominal data. So the type of anemia is an example for
yes, sir.
Nominal
okay,
data.
right? So not necessarily two groups. Okay, so please don't misunderstand like that. So any nominal data it can have more than two groups also. So that's why we call it as a categorical data. The other name for nominal scale is also called as categorical data. Okay, right?
Yes, sir.
So next question, please. Kavya.
In statistical literature, data are broadly classified as interval scale, nominal scale, ordinal scale, ratio scale. Blood groups will be an example for categorical scale, sir.
Absolutely, right? So now you have easily understood. You will
Yes.
So for undergraduates, the questions are will be asked on types of data questions. 2 mark, 5 mark, okay, right? Then followed by nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. All these things are coming under types of data. This is more than enough for undergraduates. See, these are all some of the examples, some of the questions which are also asked in PG MCQ. Okay, so such an simple and easy question which you can easily answer in PG MCQ. Okay, right? So last question. Raghu, it's your turn, Raghu.
Which type of variable social class is if it has 4 category 1 to 4 and class 1 is highest and class 4 is lowest? Again, it is ordinal, sir.
Absolutely. Very good, Raghu. Now, my question is, can you see the choice C, Raghu?
Yes, sir.
What is dichotomous? So far, we have spoken about different types of data. I have not told about dichotomous. Any idea about dichotomous?
So, dicho more than 2 categories, nominal.
Not more than 2, only 2.
Oh, only 2 category. Yes, sir.
Only 2 outcomes. Okay. So I will tell you for it's simple for undergraduates to understand. Normally, data can be a type. It can have only 2 groups, or it can have more than 2 groups. Okay, right? If it has got only 2 groups, it is called as pattern. Okay, right? If it has got more than 2 or 3 groups, it becomes categorical. Okay, right? So I'll move on to the next slide. So now we are moving on. So far, we have seen 5 words in the first slide when you try to define biostatistics. Then you recall analysis and interpretation of biological human beings and human selected biology. Okay, right? So next important thing is having known about the different types of data. Now you are supposed to know what are the data collection that you are going to do. If at all you do a research or even a basic survey, right? I think Kavya, Vigneshwar, and Raghu, all of you have done at least one ICMR project so far, isn't it? Right? Even if it's not an ICMR, you would have done some research surveys or something like that under any of the guidance of direct measurement over. Say, for example, if you want to measure the malnutrition among the underfed children, what measurement that he will do? He will measure directly the head circumference, chest circumference, the height, weight, based on you will do that. Suppose you can also do some data measurement of questionnaire, mailed questionnaire, self questionnaire. Suppose if the data collection பண்ண போறீங்க study population வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா if they are or suppose the illiterate people இல்ல direct measurement, then self-administered questionnaire, the direct interview with the study participants also, and you can also collect the data from, okay, right? So data collection, as I said, measurement is nothing but in this method, the required information is collected by the object or the element or in the human being or the person directly, okay? So the measurement and the actual enumeration generates the what type of data? What type of data, Raghu?
Measurement
measure the data directly from the individual. What type of
quantitative data, sir? In
measurement directly from the individual. Okay. So the next method of data collection is questionnaire method, right? So questionnaire method is nothing but the questionnaire format is sent to the concerned persons or population, and they are expected to give the information by answering it. So it can be by WhatsApp group, WhatsApp mail so those things can be done. The success of this data depends on the quality of the questionnaire and the enthusiasm of the study participants or the respondents. So the ability of the respondents to give the complete and correct information. So in this method, the required information is collected by actual measurement in the object, element, or person directly. So the measurement and actual enumeration generates the final data in this method of data collection. Okay. And the questionnaire format is sent to the concerned person or population, and they are expected to give the information by answering. But the problem or the success of this data depends on the quality of the questionnaire, the enthusiasm of the respondents, and the ability of the respondent complete correct, right? And question. The next method is having the questionnaire and information collected by face-to-face dialogue. So the success of this method depends on the rapport established between the interviewer and the respondents, and also ability of the interviewer to extract the information from the respondent. Okay, right? So data collection method, the fourth important data collection method is record. So the utility of the information depends on its uniformity, completeness, and accuracy. Problem with the record. Okay, right? So the information obtained from various records like census, survey records, hospital records, employment records, பண்ணிடலாம். But India மாதிரி ஒரு huge countries sometimes we may not be able to relate too much on the records of it, right? So the next is, once you collect the data, having known about what type of data that you are collecting, now once you it is very important to present the data so that the reader should be able to read your data, collected data should be readable format of present. So there are two broadly classified methods of data. Am I audible, Raghu, Kavya, and Viknesh?
Yes.
Audible,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the other methods of data presentation is, first is the traditional data method presentation established that everybody knows, and next one is diagrammatic presentation. Okay, right? So in tabular presentation, right? So how a data presentation should be presented in a table. It should be numbered. The data, the table should be numbered, and the title should be given for under the table number, and heading of the column and row should be separately given, and try to present in order, maybe in alphabetical order or chronological order or increasing order, decreasing order, so that the reader will be able to easily find out the or analyze the data or interpret the data which is presented in the table. And please try not to present too large data presentation tables, okay, right? And try to give some footnotes if at all you want to give some information about the data given in the table, okay, right? So this is frequency distribution table, as everybody would have during your basic mathematics classes in the 5th standard, 6th standard. So the data is split into convenient groups. What are those convenient groups? This is the convenient group. This is 0 to 4. Age is classified into class intervals 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, some intervals. Okay, right? This is called as class interval. So the number of items which occur in each group can be shown with the help of the frequency available in that particular class interval, right? So when you look at this frequency distribution table, you can easily find out that more number of people are there in 10 to what are there from 10 to 40, 14 years, right? So maximum when you are presenting a table present maximum 20 groups or minimum 5 groups can be present. Okay, right? So as far as possible, class interval has to be equal for comparability. So class intervals equal. Say for example, in the 0 to 10, in the 10 to 15, upper 50 to 25, then 25 to 45, and one class interval. So keep the class intervals equal so that to make the data comparable, right? And this shows how many individual observations are in a group, so that main concentration how many individuals are in, and also you can find out the range and also the shape of the distribution by just looking at the frequency distribution. Okay, right? So far we have seen the table of presentation and also the frequency distribution table. Okay, guys. So read this question and try to answer, or maybe we will see this question later. So graphical, we move on to the graphical presentation. So graphical presentation, this is a visual presentation of data. It makes the data more interesting. Summa or table So visual presentation easy for illiterate people also, and also gives a meaningful impression immediately by just pressing a tabular form. In the visual graphical will give more meaningful quickly. Okay. The first important thing that you are supposed to bar diagram, right? Okay, this is important. Equal breadth and length of the bar is proportional to the frequency. Lower frequency is known as more length, and as far as possible, the distance between bars கொஞ்சம் legible இருக்கும், பார்க்க easier. Okay, right? So this in simple bar chart, a single variable is depicted. Okay, what is the variable depicted here? Admission capacity of medical colleges in various places. Okay, Delhi 50, some college in Pune and some college in Pune. This is the frequency. So frequency get more height and breadth of the bar should be. You can give different colors for different variables. So that here for male it is given as a pink color, and for female some. same bar can also be the same bar chart with two or more labels if you want to present. That can also be presented like this way as a component bar chart, because you are dividing the same bar into two or three components. So that's why it is called as a component bar chart. Here also you can use more than one variable. அங்க ஒரு வேரியபிளுக்கு ஒரு பார் போட்ட மாதிரி இந்த ஒரே பார்ல you can do multiple colors. That is okay. That is component bar chart. And also for the same component bar chart, if you instead of presenting into frequency, if you want to present it in terms of proportion, it becomes a proportion bar chart. Okay, right? There are four types of bar chart: simple bar chart, multiple bar chart, component bar chart, and proportion bar chart. Okay, right? And yeah, this is the question MCQ which I want to ask you guys. So can you tell me the answer for this question, especially Vignesh? Can you try out this answer with Ishwar? A pictorial diagram of frequency distribution.
Yes, sir.
Yes. See, so far we have seen a frequency distribution table. Yeah, Vignesh. Okay. Frequency
Yes, sir.
distribution table. One example for 0 to 4 lower group, then 5 to 9, then 10. Some group we have seen, right? So on the frequency distribution table, if you want to present it in a diagrammatic presentation, in the diagram, for example, or question. Okay, right? What will be your answer? Yes,
Sir,
Vignesh.
is it pictogram?
Is it pictogram? Any other answer from Kavya and Raghu?
Bar diagram, sir.
Bar diagram is answer given by Kavya.
Bar diagram or line diagram can also be, sir.
Absolutely wrong answer. It is called as histogram. Okay, we'll see what is histogram, because it is the tendency to go for the bar diagram, because we have completed the bar diagram slides for the past 4 slides. We have seen the answers, but here the trick is frequency distribution. We have seen. I'm just going back to the frequency distribution to understand. Look at this frequency distribution table, Vigneshwar. What is the class interval here given? Age is the class interval 0 to 4. Then 4 முடிஞ்சு அடுத்த நம்பர் என்ன? 5. So 5 to 9 is the next class interval. 9 க்கு அப்புறம் அடுத்த நம்பர் என்ன? 10 to 14. So the class intervals are continuous. Okay, right?
10.
So if the class intervals are continuous, when you present the continuous class intervals into a frequency distribution diagram, that diagram becomes a histogram. Okay, right? So this is what is called as a histogram. This is the diagram given for an example of histogram. See, for example, the class interval. What is the class interval given? 0 to 10. They have 11 to 21. Some variable, some class interval. And here in y-axis given is number of employees. Okay, right? So here salaries in terms of dollars or something, right? And number of employees getting 0 to 10 is some numbers, and 11 to 21 is some numbers, and 22 to 32 is some numbers, right? So when you present this class intervals, the class intervals are continuous number, automatically all the bars will be kept adjacently. So when all the bars are kept adjacently and the class intervals are continuous, the resulting diagram is actually called as histogram. This is a most commonly asked 5-mark question for you guys. Please kindly note it, right? So it is also called as an area diagram consisting of series of adjacent blocks. And the blocks and bars, okay, right? And the block, rectangle, bar, whatever, right? So it is an area diagram consisting of series of adjacent blocks or bars. Entire area covered by rectangle represents the entire frequency. We have seen just now 0 to 10 ஒரு class interval. And 0 to 10 ல எவ்வளவு பேர் getting some number of employees getting some dollars from 0 to 10. So that is called as an area. Okay, right? And the area covered by individual block represents the frequency of that particular variable. So x-axis ல என்ன இருக்கும்? Class intervals. y-axis ல என்ன இருக்கும்? Frequency. Okay, right? So histogram can deal with the data even with unequal class intervals also. Okay, right? So these 4 are the 5 points that you are supposed to write with an example or a histogram or சேர்ந்து ஒரு diagram போட்டு ஒரு 4 லைன் வந்து you will get 4 to 4.5 marks out of 5 marks for 5 marks, right? This is called as histogram. Okay, right? Moving on to the next important data presentation method, which is called as a frequency polygon. But for drawing a frequency polygon, you need a histogram, right? In the midpoint la irukku இல்லையா, அந்த பாரோட midpoint la நல்லா நோட் பண்ணீங்கன்னா they have given a midpoints of all the bars and then connected all the lines and then removing the bars. In the bars remove panna, you will get a diagram called as a frequency polygon, where the two ends of the graphs are allowed to touch the x-axis. This is the midpoint. This is the midpoint for this bar and this is the midpoint for this bar. So you draw a line, point எல்லாத்தையும் வச்சுட்டு எல்லாத்தையும் connect பண்ணிட்டு finally you remove this bar, you will get a frequency polygon. pattern. This is also a method of data presentation of frequency distribution. But for drawing a frequency polygon, you need a histogram. Okay, right? So what is line diagram? How to put a line diagram? Okay, right? The best form of graphical presentation is a line diagram. So it is nothing but you can present that quantitative variable here also. The trend of events over a period of time can be easily noted in this type of diagrammatic presentation, right? It can also be used to compare proportionate change in two variables over a period. More than one variable also you can easily get it in this diagram. Or you can also compare proportions change in two variables in the same point of time or over a period of time can also be depicted in line diagram, which I'm going to show you in the next slide as an example. The curve of the line diagram no need to touch the x-axis. The zero or it will touch the x-axis. Okay, right? So this is the example for line diagram. Look at the diagram and try to relate the point which you have discussed, Kavya. Can you discuss about this line diagram, Kavya? Whatever that you are understanding by just looking at the two variables. There are given two variables. Just explain the data. Just explain the presentation of this
Yes,
graphical
sir.
presentation, Kavya.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So with here x-axis we have the years, sir, starting from 1992 to 2000, sir.
Yes.
And y-axis, I guess it's the total number of total number of deaths, total number of people who've died, 0 to 3000 number. It represents the population, sir.
Yes. Okay.
So in order to draw a line diagram also, I guess we need a histogram here. So we're connecting all the midpoints of the histogram and we are doing a line diagram here, sir.
No, line diagram is different from
sorry, sir.
frequency polygon. You need midpoints you will do a histogram. Histogram frequency polygon you will do. But here in the line diagram, in order to present the two variables, what are the two variables presented here? One is malaria death, another one is TB death. So TB death, malaria death over the period of 1992 to 2000 வரைக்கும் என்ன நம்பர் இருக்குன்னு டெபிக்ட் பண்ணி சும்மா ஒரு கிராஃபிக்கலா நம்பர் போட்டு ஒரு லைன் போட்டு, right? So this is what is called as line diagram, which can give you with those points, Kavya. I'm just going back to the slide for this week. You have to read these points so that in order to understand the points of line diagram. Read those points.
Yes, sir. Best form of graphical presentation is the line diagram. Trend of events over a period of time can be noted.
Yes,
so it can also be used to compare proportionate change in two variables over a period of time, sir.
Absolutely.
The curve in line diagram, no need to touch the x-axis.
Okay, right? So this is the importance of knowing about the line diagram. Okay, right? And
yes.
Look at the scatter diagram. What is the scatter diagram? One second, guys. We'll be moving on to the important next diagram, which is called as scatter diagram. Okay, right? So scatter diagram is used to show the relationship between two random quantitative variables. Right? So read this point. Two random quantitative variables can have relationship with you use a diagram called as scatter diagram. So here, stress test score, India blood pressure, right? So these black the pink color dots are here, yeah, right? So as the test score increases, stress in the score increase or the BP increase at both are measurable data. So in order to show the relationship between two random quantitative variables, we use a scatter diagram, which is also called as correlation diagram. And the important thing is dependent variable is depicted on the y-axis and independent variable is depicted in the x-axis. Okay, so what is the dependent variable here? Blood pressure is dependent on the stress. Blood pressure is dependent on the salt intake or whatever, right? So here, y-axis you should be having a dependent variable and x-axis you should be having a independent, okay, when you are drawing a scatter. Okay, right. So pie chart, when we have the data that adds to 100%, or you can also even convert in terms of 100%, the distribution generally represented by a pie chart, that is called as a pie diagram or pie chart. Okay, right? This is most commonly used for nominal data. And pictogram, the popular method of presentation of data for illiterate people, we use this pictogram. Okay, right? So smoking literally sentence sometimes illiterate people may not be able to read. So for them, this diagram is the answer for them to make them understand that okay, this is a non-smoking area. Okay, right? So pictogram is a popular method of presenting the data on, or especially for illiterate. Okay, right? I will move on to the next slide. Now, the question and answer session starts from for the students. I call upon the students name one by one. Raghu, now we read the question and try to answer.
The scatter diagram shows it is the relationship between two variables, sir, because trend over time is line diagram.
Fantastic.
And
very good.
The picture, yes, sir.
Yes, what you said is correct, Raghu. So this scatter diagram shows the relationship between two variables. That is answer C is the correct answer. Okay, right? So in order to methods of data presentation, please kindly make a note of this PowerPoint, this slide especially, guys. So for quantitative data, we have seen some data presentation. Similarly, for qualitative data, we have seen some data presentation method. For qualitative, it is very simple. For bar diagram, the pie chart mostly done for qualitative data, right? So for pictogram and also spot map, we will be using qualitative data only. Okay, right? So quantitative data, any measurable data, we will be using the histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curve, line diagram, scatter diagram, and also cumulative frequency diagram. With our common undergraduate table and I didn't present it here, and that is also not given in the part textbook. In the part textbook, the diagram more than enough for you. So histogram and frequency polygon are almost same. As I told you, the pictorial representation of a frequency distribution table can be done by histogram. So frequency polygon can be done by midpoint எல்லாத்தையும் பாருடைய எல்லா midpoint ஹிஸ்டோகிராம்ல இருக்கிற midpoints எல்லாத்தையும் கனெக்ட் பண்ணி பாயிண்ட் வச்சு எல்லாத்தையும் கனெக்ட் பண்ணி if you remove the bar you will get a frequency polygon, right? If you have a huge number of observations, the frequency polygon will take a smooth curve that is called a frequency curve. Okay, right? And line diagram, I repeat, one of the important point about line diagram, a trend of events over a period of time can be depicted in line diagram. You can also use more than one of the variables, and relationship between two random quantitative variables for a relationship process depict panona, you will use a scatter diagram. The other name for scatter diagram is also called as correlation diagram. Okay, right? Now, Kavya.
So the best method to show the association between height and weight of children is by line diagram, sir.
Height and weight. What type of data? Is it a qualitative or quantitative?
Sir, height is quantitative. Sorry, sir. Height is both of them are measurable, sir. Height and weight, both of them are measurable, sir.
Very good. Then, if you want to show the association between two random quantitative variables, what is the answer?
Line, because scatter diagram we cannot.
This is scatter diagram, yeah. Okay, right. So we have seen an example. X-axis we have seen a stress score. Y-axis we have seen blood pressure. Okay, right. Both are measurable data. Okay, right. So the best method to show the association or relationship between two random quantitative variables, the best form of method of data presentation is
scatter. Sir, shouldn't they be dependent on each other, sir? One should.
Yes. Dependency is there. So which is dependent, which is independent, that you can decide, and you can depict on the basis of scatter. Okay.
Yes.
Right. So the question of the key is association between two variables.
Random.
Right?
Yes. Sir.
Right. So this is association. So you want to associate a relationship between two random quantitative variables. The best method of data presentation is scatter. Okay.
Scatter.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Trends can be represented by Vigneshwar.
Yes, sir. Trends can be represented by line diagram, sir.
Yes, absolutely. Very good. Right? It is presented by line diagram. Raghu again.
Yes, sir. Best way to plot the change of incidence of disease over time. So change of incidence over time, this is again a measurable data. So by histogram, sir?
No. Change of incidence. That means trend.
Line diagram.
Over a period of time.
Line diagram.
Line diagram.
This is a line diagram. Very good. Okay, right? This is line diagram. Two variables can be plotted together. See, it's a tricky question, but still again, it is close to again the question goes to Kavya. The two variables can be plotted together in
scatter diagram.
Yes. So now you understood why I'm asking you the question.
Yes.
Right? It is scatter diagram. Yeah, okay, right. So if you want to assess, see now, For pie chart, what type of data that you will present? Qualitative data. Okay, qualitative data you will present in pie chart, right? So frequency distribution of a pictorial representation of a frequency distribution can be presented by histogram as well as frequency point. Trend of events over a period of time can be depicted by line diagram.
Line diagram.
Relationship between two variables can be assessed by scatter diagram, also called as correlation diagram. Okay, right?
Yes.
Next question. Raghu.
The best graphic presentation of frequency distribution of data gathered on continuous variable. So continuous variable means it will be histogram, sir.
Absolutely. Very good. Very good. This is what is called as histogram. Okay, right? Continuous. The class intervals are continuous and the data is also a continuous variable. Okay, right? So 0 to 10, 11 to 14, some class intervals are given the x-axis, y-axis will be having a frequency. Okay, that can be depicted by adjacent. So what is the other name for histogram, Raghu?
So
what is the other name for histogram? Area diagram. Okay, right? The first line which I have told you, histogram is also called as
area diagram.
Area diagram. Okay, right? I think that finishes off your data, types of data, various types of data, and also the types of data presentation methods. Okay, the next important area that we will be entering into is basic understanding of statistics, especially focusing on measures of cell tendency. This measure of central tendency, Raghu, Kavya, and Vigneshwar, I think we can discuss in next part of discussion. Maybe the biostatistics, we can discuss this part next week. Okay, right? As of now, we have discussed mainly on the various types of data and also the various types of data presentation and also the data collection methods in this PowerPoint in this video. So we'll try to have this video by next week. Is that fine, Raghu and Kavya? So that it will be comfortable for you to understand first.